My name is Ava, I'm 29, and for my entire adult life, my sister slept with every man I ever loved. Before I tell you about how I finally put an end to it by introducing her to the man who would destroy her life, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The screen of my phone cast a cold, blue light in the dark of my apartment. It was 3:14 a.m. One new voicemail. The notification glowed with a name I knew would one day bring me nothing but ruin, Chloe. My little sister. I pressed play, and her voice, ragged and torn apart by frantic sobs, filled the silence. Ava, please pick up. I'm in county jail. They're saying... Oh God, they're saying I might go to prison. It was Julian, Ava, he used me for everything, and now the FBI thinks I was helping him. I know I hurt you, but please. I'm begging you. I need your help. I need my big sister. I listened to it once, my face a perfect, blank mask. Then a second time, letting the raw panic in her words wash over me without leaving a single trace. A third time. My thumb hovered over the little red trash can icon on the screen. There was no hesitation. No flicker of doubt. I pressed it. The message, and the last shred of the sister I once had, vanished into nothing. But it didn't start there. To understand how a woman could do that to her own sister, her own blood, you have to understand Chloe. We grew up in a small, quiet house in Austin. From the day she was born, the world arranged itself around us in a simple, unavoidable way. Chloe got the looks, and I got the brains. Everyone said it. Oh, Chloe is a little knockout, just like her mother. And Ava, well, Ava has her father's sharp wit. It wasn't meant to be cruel, but it drew a line in the sand from the very beginning. She was the beautiful one, I was the smart one. I wasn't jealous, not at first. I was her big sister. I was proud. I watched her effortlessly charm every person she met, a little sunbeam who could get anything she wanted with a bat of her long eyelashes. I was the one who helped her with her homework, who proofread her essays, who guided her through the social minefields of middle school. I thought we were a team. Then came high school. And then came Trevor. Trevor was my first everything. My first real date, my first kiss, the first boy I ever thought I loved. He was sweet and goofy, and for 6 wonderful months, he was mine. Then, he started wanting to study at my house every afternoon. I thought it was because he wanted to be close to me. What a fool I was. It was because he wanted to be close to Chloe. She'd float into the living room in her cheerleading uniform, all smiles and feigned innocence. Oh, Trevor, you're so good at calculus. Could you just help me with this one problem? One problem turned into an hour. An hour turned into every evening. I'd sit there, pretending to read my own textbook, while a hot, sick feeling coiled in my stomach. I saw the way he looked at her when he thought I wasn't watching. I saw the way she leaned in just a little too close, her hand brushing his arm. I told myself I was being crazy, paranoid. She was my sister. He was my boyfriend. They wouldn't do that to me. I found out from a note. A stupid, folded up piece of notebook paper that fell out of Trevor's pocket when we stood up to leave one day. I saw my sister's loopy, perfect handwriting, and my blood ran cold. I waited until he was gone, my hand shaking as I picked it up. It wasn't a note about calculus. That night, I confronted her in her bedroom. The note was crumpled in my fist. How could you? I whispered, my voice breaking. Chloe was sitting at her vanity, brushing her long, blonde hair. She didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She just met my eyes in the mirror, a little, pitying smile on her perfect lips. I can't help it if he likes me more, Ava, she said, her voice soft as silk. It's not my fault I'm just easy to love. The words hit me harder than a slap. I ran out of her room, tears streaming down my face, and found my mom in the kitchen. I threw the crumpled note on the table and sobbed out the whole ugly story, expecting comfort, expecting her to be furious on my behalf. I waited for her to wrap her arms around me, to tell me everything would be okay, that she would talk to Chloe. But she didn't. I looked at my mother, my eyes pleading with her to be on my side, just this once. She sighed, wiping her hands on her apron, and her expression wasn't one of sympathy. It was annoyance. She finally looked at me, her lips thinning into a straight line, and said, "You need to stop setting her up to fail." That was what my mother said to me. Not to Chloe, the actual thief, but to me, the victim. That sentence became the soundtrack to my early 20s. It echoed in my head as the pattern continued, each betrayal a little deeper, a little crueler than the last. After I started college at UT, I dated a guy named Cameron for 6 months. He was studying to be an architect, and he was kind and steady. I learned my lesson from the Trevor incident. I kept him away from my family, away from Chloe. But you can't hide forever. My dad's 50th birthday came up, and it would have been an insult not to bring my serious boyfriend.
Đầu gối cảm đam
I
mê.
remember holding Cameron's hand under the table, my leg bouncing. Chloe
Hai ba con số 50
was,
chứa
of course,
paracetamol giúp
magnificent.
giảm đau, hạ sốt, thấu hiểu cơn đau, giảm đau hiệu quả. Không dùng cho người có bệnh với paracetamol hoặc bất kỳ các thành phần nào của thuốc. Suy gan nặng, độc
She
uống chậm
barely
thuốc khi dùng.
even looked at Cameron. She spent the whole night talking about her new internship, charming my aunts and uncles. I actually let myself relax. I thought maybe she's finally grown up. Maybe we're past it. 1 week later, at 2 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Chloe, sobbing hysterically. "Ava, I'm so sorry to call, but my car broke down on the highway and my phone's about to die. I can't get a tow truck for an hour." I'm scared. Of course, I panicked. I was about to throw on my clothes when she said, "Wait, isn't Cameron a really heavy sleeper? Could you just give me his number? He lives way closer to I-35 than you do. He could just wait with me. Please, I'm really freaking out." It sounded logical. I was worried sick, so I gave her his number. He was a good guy. Of course he would help my sister. He called me an hour later to say she was safe and he was taking her home. The next morning, Cameron came over to my apartment. He wouldn't look me in the eye. He just stood in my doorway and said the words I already knew were coming. "I'm so sorry, Ava. It just happened." They had slept together. The breakdown was a lie. Her car was perfectly fine. When I confronted Chloe, she had the audacity to look sad for me. "Honestly, Ava, I did you a favor," she said, tilting her head. "Any man who would cheat on you that easily wasn't the one. You deserve better." She made it sound like a noble sacrifice. Then came Marcus. We worked at the same marketing agency. He was smart, funny, and we had incredible chemistry. This time, I was adamant. He would never meet my family. We dated for almost a year, and it was working. But Chloe was a hunter. She found him on LinkedIn, saw we were connected, and showed up at our office happy hour one Friday. She acted surprised to see me. "Oh my God, Ava! I was just meeting a friend in the area. This is such a coincidence." Within 30 minutes, she had him laughing in a corner. Within an hour, I watched her slip her phone number into his hand. I felt that old, familiar cold dread wash over me. I tried to believe in Marcus. I tried to believe that this time would be different. 2 weeks later, I was using his laptop to look something up for a presentation when an email notification popped up on the screen. It was from Chloe. The subject line was just a winky face emoji. I know I shouldn't have. But I did. I opened it. It was a chain of emails, filled with pictures of them, in bed, in his apartment, looking disgustingly happy. When I confronted him, he didn't even have the decency to lie. He just shrugged. "She's just a lot of fun, Ava." It's nothing serious. That Thanksgiving was the worst. I was single again, and Chloe brought Marcus with her. My parents acted like it was the most normal thing in the world. As I was helping my mom with the gravy in the kitchen, she leaned in close, her voice sharp as the carving knife. You know, you need to stop parading these men in front of your sister, she hissed. She can't control herself when you dangle temptation right under her nose. Why do you keep setting her up to fail? I just stood there, stirring the lumpy gravy, the heat from the stove on my face feeling like the burn of shame. In my mother's eyes, my sister's predatory behavior was my fault. My heartbreak was my fault. My very existence was a temptation that my poor, beautiful sister simply couldn't be expected to resist. For a while after the Thanksgiving incident, I just gave up. I stopped dating. I poured everything I had into my work. I was a good nurse, and I was proud of it. I worked double shifts, took on the most difficult cases, and dedicated myself to becoming the best. A position for head nurse on my floor opened up, a major promotion with a much better salary, and my supervisor told me the job was basically mine to lose. I had the seniority, the record, the respect of my colleagues. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building a life that Chloe couldn't touch. Chloe had also, through some miracle, decided to go to nursing school. She said I had inspired her. My parents were thrilled. Of course, she got a job at the same hospital as me. I tried to be supportive. I told myself this was a good thing, a chance for us to finally connect as adults, as professionals. The week before the promotion announcements, a rumor started circulating. A nasty one. It was about a difficult patient, a wealthy donor to the hospital, who had lodged a complaint. The rumor was that I had been negligent, that I had mixed up his medication schedule, and that the family was threatening to get a lawyer and sue. It was a complete fabrication. My charts were perfect, my record was spotless. But the rumor was persistent, whispered in the break room and by the nurses' station. The day the list was posted, my name wasn't on it. The job went to someone with 2 years less experience than me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I scheduled a meeting with my supervisor. She looked uncomfortable. "Ava, you're an excellent nurse," she said, avoiding my eyes. "But we can't have any hint of scandal around our department heads. The donor's family, well, the hospital wants to keep them happy." But it was a lie, I said, my voice shaking. "Where did that even come from?" She sighed. "Honestly? It came from your sister. She mentioned to a few people that she was worried about you, that you seemed stressed and might have made a mistake. She said she was only trying to protect you." I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't about a man. This was about my life. My career. Something I had built for myself, with my own 2 hands. She hadn't just stolen a boyfriend, she'd stolen my future. I went looking for her and found her in the cafeteria, laughing with a group of residents. I pulled her aside, my hands shaking with rage. "Why, Chloe? Why would you do that?" She dropped the sweet and innocent act. Her eyes turned to ice. "You always thought you were so much better than me, didn't you?" she hissed. "The smart one. Well, who's the smart one now?" That was the wound that cut the deepest. But it wasn't the last. A few months later, I was dating again. A nice, quiet man named Derek. An engineer. He was safe. He was stable. And he was the one I was with when the final violation occurred. Our grandmother had passed away a few years prior, leaving me her most prized possession, a delicate, gold locket. It was my most sacred treasure. I kept it in a velvet box in my jewelry drawer. One weekend, my apartment's water heater broke, and I had to stay with my parents while it was being fixed. Chloe, of course, knew I was there.
Ý cô á.
The week after I moved back in, I couldn't find the
Cô
locket.
nhìn chồng cô đi.
I tore my apartment
biết vậy
apart,
đó mà nó
my
đừng có lớn
panic
như vậy
growing
đó
with
hả?
every empty
Con
drawer.
không có ý đó.
I called my mom, sobbing, asking if I might have left it at their house. She helped me look, but it was gone. I was devastated. I assumed it had been lost in the move, a casualty of the chaos. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw it. It was a picture Derek had posted, a selfie of him and Chloe. They were at a bar, smiling. He had his arm around her. And there, nestled in the hollow of her throat, shining under the bar lights, was my grandmother's locket. It wasn't just that she had slept with him. I almost expected that. It was that she had walked into my home, into my bedroom, opened my jewelry box, and taken the one thing she knew meant the world to me. She wasn't just taking my boyfriends anymore. She was taking my history, my memories, my identity. She was trying to erase me and wear my life like a costume. Staring at that picture, at the glint of gold on my sister's skin, something inside me didn't just break. It turned to stone. The hurt, the sadness, all of it burned away, and all that was left was a cold, quiet, calculating rage. If you're still listening, please help me out by liking this video and commenting the number 1 below. It lets me know you've given me a like, and that you're here with me on this journey. Your support is a huge encouragement for me to keep going. Just comment the number 1 and let me tell you what happened next. After the incident with Derek and the locket, I built a fortress around my life. I moved to a new apartment complex, changed my work schedule, and for nearly 2 years, I focused solely on myself. I slowly began to heal. And then, I met Liam. I met him at a friend's wedding. He wasn't my usual type. He was a software engineer, tall and quiet, with kind eyes that actually saw me. He listened when I talked. He laughed at my stupid jokes. He remembered the little things. For the first time, I felt like someone wasn't dating me as a placeholder until my more beautiful sister came along. He was dating me. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I had to protect him from Chloe at all costs. For 8 blissful months, he was my secret. My perfect, wonderful secret. We never went to my old hangouts. We drove to neighboring towns for dates. I never posted a single picture of us online. I told absolutely no one about him, not my parents, not my friends, no one. It felt like I was in the witness protection program, but it was worth it. Our relationship was the healthiest, most genuine thing I had ever experienced. We talked about the future, about moving in together, about what we'd name our hypothetical dog. I was starting to believe in happy endings again. I had finally outsmarted Chloe. The fortress came crumbling down because of my loose-lipped cousin, Amanda. She was on the phone with my mom, talking about the wedding where I'd met Liam. She casually mentioned, "Oh, Ava looked so happy with that new guy, Liam. He seemed so sweet." That was all it took. One sentence. My mom, in her usual fashion, mentioned it to Chloe within hours. It's so nice that Ava's seeing someone again. I hope she doesn't scare this one off. My blood ran cold when my mom told me about the slip-up. I tried to downplay it. Oh, it was nothing, Mom. Just a few dates. But I knew it was too late. The hunter had been alerted to the prey. Chloe's detective skills could rival the FBI.
Đầu gối cảm đam
She
mê.
knew his first name and the industry he worked in. That was enough. She must
Alpha
have
còn 60
scoured
phiếu
LinkedIn,
paracetamol giúp
company
giảm đau hạ
websites,
sốt, thấu hiểu cơn đau,
social
giảm
media.
đau hiệu quả, không dùng cho người có bệnh với paracetamol hoặc bất kỳ các thành phần nào của thuốc. Suy gan nặng, độc ứng dụng sử dụng thuốc chuyên dùng.
He became distant. He canceled a date, saying he had to work late. He stopped answering my texts as quickly. I felt that old, familiar sickness creeping back into my stomach. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was letting my
Trong
past
khi
trauma
em
ruin the best thing
nhất
that had
vở
ever
cực khổ
happened to
đi
me.
theo anh, làm trợ
I
lý cho
decided
anh,
to
phải đi
surprise
gặp
him.
đối tác, gặp khách hàng,
I
gặp
was
người
going
này
to
người
push the
kia, mà
paranoia
tới bây
away,
giờ
be the
em còn
cool,
xài cái điện thoại
trusting
11 tuổi
girlfriend.
bắp mấy năm rồi.
I still had a key to his
Thôi được
apartment
rồi, anh
from
xin
a few
lỗi,
weeks
anh mua
before
cái
when
điện
I'd
thoại cho em
watched
được
his
chưa?
cat.
Không chịu đâu.
I stopped
Anh
by
nghĩ
the
sao mà
store
mua cái
and
điện
picked up
thoại
his
y hệt
favorite
giờ
craft
anh
beer
tặng
and
cho
a
em hả?
pizza.
Chẳng khác nào anh so
I
sánh
walked
em
up to
với
his
vợ anh y
door,
chang
my
nhau.
heart light for the first time in
Vậy chứ em muốn
days,
sao
ready
nè?
to prove
Mua cái
myself
15 Pro
wrong.
Max cho em.
Ok,
I remember
anh
the
sẽ mua
sound
đồ
of
mắt
the
cho em
key
luôn.
turning in the
Ok
lock.
chưa?
Hứa rồi đó nha.
I remember
mà.
pushing the door
Mua
open,
liền
a
nha.
smile on my face, calling out his name.
Vậy mới chịu đó.
And then I remember the
Nhưng mà
silence.
mai mốt không có đưa tiền cho vợ
Not
đó
an
nha.
empty silence. A heavy, occupied silence. His shoes
Bên
were
này
by the door. And next to them, a pair of strappy, high-heeled sandals I knew all too well. I felt my whole body go numb. I walked down the short hallway toward his bedroom, moving as if through water. The door was slightly ajar. I heard a soft giggle. Her giggle. I pushed the door open. And there they were. Tangled together in the sheets of the bed we had shared. My sister and the man I loved. The worst part wasn't catching them. It was their reaction. They didn't scramble to cover up. They didn't look ashamed. Liam just propped himself up on his elbows, running a hand through his hair. And Chloe. Chloe sat up, the sheet falling away, completely naked and utterly shameless. She looked right at me, a slow, triumphant smile spreading across her face. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey. Honestly, Ava, she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. I did you a huge favor. He barely lasted 10 minutes. You deserve so much better than that, sis. I just stood there, trembling, the pizza box feeling heavy and ridiculous in my hands. I looked at Liam, the man who had told me he loved me, waiting for him to say something, anything. He just shrugged, not even bothering to cover himself. Your sister's way too hot for me not to try, he said, as if explaining the weather. You understand, right? I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked out. Chloe's laughter followed me down the hall. As I walked to my car in the parking lot, my hand shaking so badly I could barely grip the keys, everything crystallized. This wasn't about her wanting my boyfriends. This was about her not wanting me to have anything. She didn't do it for love or attraction. She did it because she could, because she enjoyed watching me crumble, because destroying my happiness had become her twisted hobby. The grief, the heartbreak, the years of betrayal, it all burned away in the fire of that one moment. And in its place, a single, cold, clear thought formed in my mind. She craved men she couldn't resist. Fine. I'd give her exactly what she wanted. Wrapped in a package that would destroy her from the inside out. The 40-minute drive home from Liam's apartment was the calmest I had felt in years. The rage didn't feel hot anymore, it felt like ice, spreading through my veins and sharpening my mind. The tears were gone. The victim was gone. In her place was a strategist. I knew Chloe's type. It was her greatest weakness. She always went for the same kind of man, gorgeous, charming, and seemingly successful. She never looked deeper than the surface. She never questioned their stories or backgrounds. As long as they looked good on her arm and made her feel chosen, she was sold. That blind spot would be her downfall. I didn't know how to start, but I knew who might. My best friend, Maria, the one person who had witnessed the whole ugly history with my sister. She wasn't just my friend, she was a paralegal at a high-powered law firm in downtown Austin, specializing in financial crimes and messy, high-asset divorce cases. She had seen the absolute worst of men. The next day, I sat in her kitchen, a cup of coffee untouched in my hands, and I told her everything. The locket. The promotion. Liam. When I was done, I looked at her and said, I don't want to get sad anymore. I want to get even. I need to find someone who is Chloe's perfect man on the outside, and a complete monster on the inside. A man who will do to her what she's done to everyone else. Maria looked at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. I thought she was going to tell me I was crazy. Instead, she just nodded slowly. Okay, she said, her voice firm. But if we do this, we do it right. We do it smart. No half measures. For the next 2 weeks, Maria's apartment became our war room. She had access to databases I didn't even know existed. We weren't just Googling. We were diving deep into public records, court filings, and background check services that her firm used. We were looking for a very specific profile, a man with a history of charming wealthy women, a documented pattern of financial and emotional abuse, but no violent felonies that would make him an immediate physical threat. He had to be a ghost, dangerous but not lethal. It took a week of digging through online dregs, but then we found him. Julian Croft. His LinkedIn profile was a masterpiece. He was supposedly a venture capitalist from Dallas, with a professional headshot that could have landed him a modeling contract. He was all expensive suits, confident smiles, and posts about market disruption and empowering entrepreneurs. He looked like every woman's dream. But the documents Maria pulled up told a different story. A very, very different story. We found his divorce records. His ex-wife's testimony was chilling. It detailed years of financial abuse. He had drained her inheritance, taken out loans in her name, and left her buried in debt. It also detailed the emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the isolation, the constant manipulation that made her think she was going crazy. The lawyer for his ex-wife had done a phenomenal job documenting everything. And there was more. 2 separate restraining orders from other ex-girlfriends, both citing stalking and financial fraud. He was also, according to a footnote in a civil case, currently under investigation for securities fraud related to a boutique investment firm he was running. It was a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. He was a predator in a $1,000 suit. He was perfect. This is him, Ava, Maria said, her finger tracing his name on the screen. He's a snake. He'll charm Chloe, drain her bank accounts, ruin her credit, and break her spirit. He's a professional life destroyer. The plan was simple. I couldn't just introduce him to Chloe. She would be suspicious. I had to be the bait. I had to make him my boyfriend first. I created a fake LinkedIn profile, posing as a freelance marketing consultant who had just come into a small but significant inheritance from a grandparent's funeral. I reached out to him with a vague but intriguing business proposal. He responded within an hour. We agreed to meet at a Starbucks in a trendy part of town. I dressed the part, the vulnerable, slightly grieving, but hopeful woman. I let my voice crack when I talked about my family. Then, I played my trump card. I pulled out my phone and showed him Chloe's Instagram. This is my sister, Chloe, I said, forcing a watery smile. She's beautiful, isn't she? Every guy I've ever loved ends up choosing her instead. I feel so worthless sometimes. I just can't compete. I watched his eyes, and I saw it. A flicker. The unmistakable glint of a predator spotting wounded prey. He saw exactly what I wanted him to see, a broken woman with money he could easily manipulate, and a gorgeous sister who represented the ultimate trophy. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. His touch felt like a spider crawling on my skin. You seem like an incredible person, Ava, he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. Any man who would leave you for someone else is an idiot. Hook, line, and sinker. Dating Julian Croft was like living in a psychological thriller where I was the secret director. For 3 weeks, he played his part perfectly, and I played mine. He love-bombed me with a ferocity that would have swept any other woman off her feet. There were lavish dinners at the most expensive steakhouses in Austin, where he'd insist on ordering the finest wine. There was a surprise weekend trip to a luxury spa in the hill country. He showered me with compliments, promises of a future together, and talked about how he had never met anyone as genuine and pure as me. It was nauseating. Every touch made my skin crawl.
Được đâu em ơi.
Every compliment landed like a stone in my stomach. I could see the calculation behind his eyes with every move he made. He was building me up, making me emotionally dependent, getting ready to ask for a short-term loan for a can't-miss investment. I could see the whole playbook laid out in front of me. The only thing he didn't know was that I had written it. My friend Maria was my lifeline. Every night, I'd call her and debrief. He mentioned his portfolio today. I'd report, my voice flat. He said he wants me to meet his partner soon. Stay focused, Ava, she'd say, her voice a steady anchor. You're in control. Remember the goal. The goal. After 3 weeks of this charade, I knew it was time. I told Julian that I was falling for him, but I had one major fear. My sister, Chloe, I said, my voice trembling with practiced emotion. She has a history of, well, of stealing my boyfriends. I want to keep our relationship a secret from her for just a little while longer. I don't think I could bear it if I lost you to her. This, I knew, was like waving a red flag in front of a bull. I had just made myself the safe, stable option and Chloe the forbidden, ultimate prize. The final piece of the plan was my mom's birthday dinner. It was the perfect stage. I invited Julian as my date, telling him it was time for him to meet my family. But please, I begged, looking into his eyes. Promise me you'll be distant with my sister. If she thinks you're interested, she'll pounce. Just for me. Please ignore her. Of course, my love, he said, kissing my forehead. I only have eyes for you. The lie was so smooth, it was almost impressive. He thought he was playing me, positioning himself to become my trusted boyfriend while planning to conquer my sister as a bonus. He had no idea he was a pawn walking into a trap I had spent weeks perfecting. The dinner was at a fancy steakhouse my dad loved. Julian performed his role flawlessly. He
Hapa còn
brought my
60
mom's
với
flowers.
paracetamol giúp giảm đau, hạ sốt, tối thiểu cơn đau, giảm đau hiệu quả, không dùng cho người có bệnh với paracetamol hoặc bất kỳ tác dụng nào của thuốc. Suy gan nặng, độc uống dùng cho dùng thuốc tiêu dùng.
Touching my back, whispering in my ear, complimenting my choice of lasagna in a place known for its filet mignon.
Đi về đi.
He was the perfect boyfriend.
Anh nói với tôi
And
là
Chloe
không có yêu
couldn't
thương gì vợ
stand
anh
it.
hết. Biết đâu, anh
I
coi
watched
đó,
her
vợ
across
anh
the
suốt ngày ở
table.
nhà làm nội trợ, có
For
đi
the
đâu
first
đâu
20
mà bày đặt
minutes,
sắm
she
điện thoại
tried to
say xịn
ignore
mình.
him.
Lâm rồi,
Then,
trong
she
khi
started
em
getting
vất
restless.
vả cực khổ đi theo
She
anh,
couldn't handle
làm trợ
being
lý cho anh,
irrelevant,
phải đi
especially
gặp
when the
đối
man
tác, gặp
ignoring
khách
her
hàng,
was
gặp
that
người này người
attractive.
kia. Mà tới bây giờ
The game
em còn xài
began.
cái điện thoại 11
She
Pro Max
started
mấy năm
directing her
rồi.
questions to him.
Thôi được rồi, anh xin lỗi.
She touched his arm when she laughed at something he
Không
said.
chịu đâu, anh nghĩ
She
sao mà
leaned in
mua cái
way
điện
too
thoại y
close,
hệt
her
vợ anh
cleavage on
tặng cho
full
em hả?
display, whispering
Chẳng
some
thấy nợ
inside
sao
joke
em với vợ
only
anh
he
đi
could
chen
hear.
nhau.
Her flirtation became so obvious that even my oblivious parents started exchanging glances.
Ok chưa?
This was my cue.
Anh hứa mà.
I excused myself to go to the bathroom, but I didn't go all the way.
Nhưng mà mai
I
mốt
stood in the
không có
hallway,
tiền cho vợ đó
watching
nha.
through the slightly cracked door of the private dining room. And I saw her move in for the kill. She leaned across the table, her voice a low purr. My sister's sweet, I heard her whisper to him. But she's pretty vanilla in every way. I could show you things she wouldn't even dream of trying. She ran her fingers slowly along his forearm. When I returned to the table 5 minutes later, I saw them. They were exchanging phone numbers under the table, their fingers brushing. The look on Chloe's face was one of pure, venomous triumph. Showtime. I looked at her, then at Julian. I let my jaw drop. I let a single, perfect tear roll down my cheek. Then I picked up my full glass of Merlot, looked Julian dead in the eye, and threw it directly in his face. The entire table gasped. The red wine dripped down his shocked face, staining the collar of his expensive white shirt. I can't believe you. I sobbed, pushing my chair back violently. I gave Chloe one last look of utter devastation and stormed out of the restaurant, making sure my sobs were loud enough for everyone to hear. It was the performance of a lifetime. The call I was waiting for came that very night. It was Chloe. Her voice was dripping with the fake, syrupy concern she had perfected over the years. Ava, oh my God, are you okay? I am so sorry. Julian totally came on to me at dinner. He was being so aggressive. But honestly, you're better off without him. Something about him seems really sketchy. I played my part. I can't talk about it right now, Chloe, I whispered into the phone before hanging up, letting her believe she had won another effortless victory. 2 days later, she was posting Instagram stories from his luxury downtown condo. Within a week, she had changed her relationship status to in a relationship with Julian Croft. Within a month, she had moved in with him completely and, as I would later find out, had given him her banking passwords for their shared expenses. I watched it all unfold from the sidelines, a silent observer to the train wreck I had set in motion. A part of me felt a grim satisfaction. Another, smaller part felt a growing sense of uneasiness. Chloe was walking blindly into quicksand, and I was the one who had pointed her in that direction. But then I'd remember the locket, the stolen promotion, Liam's empty shrug, and I'd push that feeling down. She was getting exactly what she deserved. The first crack in Chloe's perfect new life appeared 6 weeks later. I got a call from her. Her voice wasn't triumphant anymore. It was tight with anxiety. Ava, this is so weird. A lawyer representing Julian's ex-wife contacted me. They're saying Julian hid assets during his divorce and that because I'm living with him and our finances are mixed, I could be held liable as an accomplice to fraud. They're saying I might get sued, too. I made sympathetic noises. Oh no, Chloe, that sounds awful. What did Julian say? Oh, he explained everything, she said, her relief audible. His ex-wife is just bitter and trying to cause trouble because he's so happy now. He said his lawyers will handle it. But that was only the beginning. Next came the investment. Julian had convinced her that his firm was on the ground floor of the next big tech startup. He told her it was an exclusive, friends and family opportunity. Chloe, eager to prove she was more than just a pretty face, invested her entire life savings, a little over $30,000 she had from a small inheritance from our grandmother. 2 months later, the SEC shut down the operation. It was an elaborate Ponzi scheme. Her money, and the money of dozens of other victims, vanished overnight. This time when she called me, she was sobbing. It has to be a mistake, Ava. The money is just frozen, right? Julian says his lawyers are fighting it. He says we'll get everything back, plus interest. I stayed silent on my end of the phone. We both knew the truth. The final stage of the collapse was swift and brutal. When Chloe, finally realizing the depth of the lies, tried to pack her bags and leave his condo, Julian showed his true colors. He wasn't just a con artist, he was a monster. He grabbed her wrist to stop her, and he squeezed so hard that she felt a bone snap. He then locked her in the bedroom while he raged through the apartment, screaming about ungrateful women who didn't appreciate everything he'd done for them. She managed to escape the next day when he left for a meeting. She went straight to her bank, cradling her broken wrist, only to discover the final horror. He had emptied everything. Her checking account. Her savings account. He had even cashed out her 401k. But it was worse than that. Using the personal information she had so freely given him, he had applied for and maxed out multiple credit cards and personal loans in her name. She wasn't just broke. She was buried under more than $80,000 of debt she never even knew existed. The final blow came at dawn on a Tuesday morning. I only know the details because it was all over the news later that day. A team of FBI agents used a battering ram to break down the door of Julian's luxury condo. They found Chloe huddled in the guest room, terrified. And they found her signature. It was on dozens of fraudulent documents Julian had tricked her into signing, telling her they were for their investment portfolio or tax purposes. He had made her an unwitting accomplice to securities fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. My phone rang at 6:47 a.m. The caller ID was a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, the notification popped up. It was the voicemail I told you about at the beginning. The one from county jail. The one where my little sister, the invincible queen of my entire life, finally begged for my help. I listened to it 3 times. And then I deleted it. The local news picked up the story within days. Local woman arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Chloe's mugshot flashed across the screen. Her mascara was streaked, her eyes hollow with a devastation I recognized all too well. It was the same look I'd seen in my own mirror for years. My mom called me hysterical. You have to help your sister, Ava. You have to get her a good lawyer. She made mistakes, but she doesn't deserve this. She made her own choices, Mom, I replied calmly, my voice even. Just like she did with Cameron, and Marcus, and Derek, and Liam. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, my mom's voice dropped to a whisper. You knew, didn't you? You knew what he was. I didn't answer. Because the truth was too complicated for a simple yes or no. Had I known Julian would break her wrist? No. Had I researched him thoroughly enough to know he was dangerous, manipulative, and capable of complete financial and emotional destruction? Absolutely. In the end, Chloe took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to lesser charges in exchange for testifying against Julian. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. She served 8 months in a minimum security facility. She emerged a different person. A convicted felon with a destroyed credit score and a restraining order against the man who had ruined her life. The family dinners stopped. My mom couldn't look at me the same way, her eyes a mixture of horror at what I'd done and a grudging, resentful acknowledgement that I had, in my own twisted way, been proven right. My dad just shook his head whenever Chloe's name came up, muttering about natural consequences and chickens coming home to roost. After her release, Chloe moved across the country to Seattle. We haven't spoken in 2 years. I occasionally look at her Instagram. It's private now, but her profile picture is of a sunset over the water. Not her own face. The confident, predatory gleam that used to be in her eyes is gone, replaced by something I can't quite name. I've been in therapy for a year now, working through the complex tangle of emotions that comes with orchestrating someone's downfall, even someone who'd hurt you repeatedly. My therapist says revenge rarely brings the peace we expect. And she's right. I don't feel triumphant. Mostly, I just feel empty, where all that white-hot anger used to live. But I also sleep better at night, knowing that Chloe will never steal another woman's boyfriend, or her promotion, or her inheritance again. Some lessons can only be learned through complete devastation. And my sister finally learned hers the hard way. Last week, my therapist asked me how I see myself now. I told her about a recurring nightmare I have. In the dream, I'm watching Chloe get hurt by Julian, and she's crying out for me to help her. But when I step into the light to save her, I look down at my hands, and they aren't my hands. And when I look in the mirror, the face staring back at me isn't my face. It's his. Vengeance has a price. It costs you a piece of your soul. I won the war against my sister. I'm just still learning how to live with the person I had to become to do it. Thank you so much for listening to my story all the way through. It means more than you know. My question for you is, did I go too far, or did my sister finally get what she deserved? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more.